thank you for coming. We're ready to start. So this slot is about building a utility portal with Magnolia and SAP. And okay, so let's go. So first, I would like to introduce me and my company. So we are Tinext from the south of Switzerland. We do this kind of things. So we are a full stack of solutions, starting from the things that are done by a digital agency typically. But we are also system integrators with two main fields. One is WCM, the other is ECM. And we offer also data center solution for hosting other application or our projects. So we have, as I repeat, a full stack of solutions from the planning, the analysis, the development, the integration, and the delivery of a project. Some numbers of our company. I will be sure, I will promise. So we are quite old in terms of the web. So we started to release projects in 1995, when the web was uncertain. And we have released more than 1,500 of projects. We have two data centers, two locations, one in the south of Switzerland, in Ticino. The other is in Italy. We have more than 800 clients. And that's it. We are not big, 45 people, but okay, spread around that area. So we have, this is some, I prefer to speak about clients. So we have important clients like, you see, AL is the company I will speak about in this presentation. We have Al Arabiya, some banks, digital customer, brand, and tourists, and so on. My name is Matteo Pelucco. I'm a senior software engineer, supposed to be a senior software engineer. And if you want, you can follow me on Twitter. But back to the project. The company is Aziende Industriali di Lugano. It's a public utility company. They produce electricity, the retail services like electricity, gas, water. They import gas, so it's a final end user company. The project is about to replace their existing CMS solution based on an old version of LiveLink OpenText solution to Magnolia. We have 100,000 of potential web user, 23 business processes to build, to realize, and of course we are dealing with sensitive data, so we need attention on this kind of topics. We are in the main field of the OpenSuite approach. So we have used Magnolia as a central framework to integrate and to deliver, for delivering things. So we are integrating SAP, mainly SAP, and Alfresco too, but it's not a core part. And we deliver to the final user and to the admin user in a mobile approach, responsive approach. Integrating mail system and whatever. So this is this project is perfect for speaking about the OpenSuite approach. Why 25? They are 23 anyway. So we have 23 business processes to model. This is the first issue to realize. Some of them, just to make an example. We need to communicate meta readings, view technical data, add a new contract, move contract, billing documents, and many more. Each of them it's very peculiar. So there are no common patterns of interaction with the SAP backend. So we need to thread every process in a vertical way. And unfortunately, the standard form builder was not enough because some of the processes are very complicated and very complex. Just to make an example, this is the send meta reading process. So that when you communicate your meta reading to the final user to have the billing back. So this is what stakeholders think. So for example, I want to submit a reading for which contract. Give the contracts short. Give me the reading and thank you. So this is the perfect solution. But reality, as you know, is not like that. So when you start to track requirements, to see the solution from behind the scenes, you see that the role involved are more, the interactions are complicated, and so this basic process will be translated in this pane. So translate this for 23 processes, and you reach the complexity of the project. And looking at this diagram, I don't want to go through, but you can imagine that a standard form builder is not enough. So you have horsepower, you're using Magnolia, so just use the power. So we reloaded the form builder, we enhanced the form builder with some additional features. For example, we introduced SAP-aware validators, multi-step navigation bar, step validators, scriptable default values, a final summary step, dynamic mail processor, and everything is responsive. Just to make an example, the same. This is another process, business process. This is the user registration. So we collect every process in a single site tree. So we have a start page, some steps. So we have a registration type here, password confirmation, insert contract data, and so on. The final step is a review, and there is a thank you page. This is the visual representation. So it is in Italian, so the visual interface is Italian. So you will see the progress bar. It's clickable, so we can jump from one step to another. There is the central part, the buttons behind, and everything is responsive. We introduced, as I said, step validators. So this is a new feature. Imagine you have 10 fields in a form step, and you want to validate things crossing these fields. So you cannot use field validation, the out-of-the-box feature of Form Builder, but we introduce a step validator. So all the fields are validated all together in the step. If the validation does not occur, as you can imagine, a validation message block the user on the step until it fixes what is not consistent. These step validators are SAP aware, so they ask SAP to validate things. Not only SAP aware, but in many cases they ask SAP if the combination of fields is valid. We introduce new form field types. This is an example. This is a multi-choice selection, but the data is in a typical table way, and the data are coming from SAP, from SAP. As I said, this is responsive. Everything is responsive, and there are some enhancements like client-side validation of each step, of each field. Sorry. And this is an example of another enhancement. This is a responsive contextual help. It is completely based on SDK. So we have the list button on the right. It's a SDK link list with internal link, and on the left we have a push panel that it is a SDK text and image. It's a page, by the way. And with just with an app-to-receive approach, we load dynamically the content of the page and we inject in this JavaScript component. Okay, so now we are able to model the business process with Form Builder, with an enhanced version of Form Builder, but of course we need to deal with SAP. And you see there are coffee, a lot of coffee here, and a lot of nights spent. When you deal with SAP, prepare a lot of coffee. As you remember, we are moving from an existing live project already dealing with SAP. So the refactoring of the SAP layer, the connection to SAP, was not in project scope. So we kept that as is. And by the way, it's a SOAP-based SAP integration layer. There's no documentation at all, only WSDL. So, okay, how to do that? Proceed with, we decided to go in for JUnit, for using JUnit as a reverse engineering tool. Well, we produced some, as you can imagine, a Java client that is able to connect with WSDL services, and would fill the Java client with a JUnit suite with a lot of test cases. Step by step, we have been able to reproduce the solution, the processes, and this approach also saved our life, because in this way we decouple the backend connection with SAP from the front-end development. So we have two roles, the front-end developers and a back-end developer. They have been able to work in parallel using the Magnolia 5 inversion of control. We decouple the connection to the SAP with mock data, fake data. So the front-end developer will have been able to develop the form builder and to model the 23 business process without asking anything to SAP. In the meantime, the backend developer reverse engineered the solution, completing the JUnit test cases, and step by step translating them to form processor, step processor, field validation, and so on. And the process of unifying the solution was very agile. So one process by the other, we move from the mock solution to the real SAP connection. Just a note, the SAP URLs are stored in Magnolia properties file to have no risk to accessing the wrong SAP environment. We have two environments, one for testing and one is real. But it's collateral. This is a very, very small example. This is the one business process modeled with a single JUnit test. This is the change username test. So you can see that this is the 3 lines of codes with 1 method. And it's quick. It's very quick and very agile for debugging. We don't have to create the forum and try to understand the error. We are in Java. We are quick enough to debug almost in real time what happened, change the code in real time with debugging, while debugging, and that's quick. Just as an information, this is our JUnit teeny solution. So we have abstract tests in top where we have common methods like some business-specific aggregation of fields that are stored in the abstract test. We have the login test just below, and with a before method, we do the login. So all the test behind uses the before method of the login test to do the login, and then to perform their own activities. Okay, the first word is DMS. It's not complete, but okay, we have now the form builder ready. We have the SAP connection, but one part of the project want to download DMS document. They are typically the billing communication documents. They are stored in Alfresco, but unfortunately there is no protection against the data. So basically, SAP asks Alfresco to generate PDF and to store in its repository and to serve them to the customer. But what happened? This is not secured, so I can download the documents of other people. So we need to hide the real Alfresco URLs and to protect the accesses to those sensitive data. So we use the standard Alfresco API to download document, nothing complicated, but we proxied the download with a document download servlet direct in Magnolia. So it transparently proxies the download request for a logged user, asking SAP first the permissions, and then if SAP says, okay, you can download, the final download will be produced. The URL is a Magnolia URL. So from the user perspective, there's no knowledge of what happened behind. This is not that way in the initial project. This is just for a recap. So this is the sequence diagram. First, we ask Magnolia, tell me what are my documents, and this information is retrieved in SAP. So we retrieve from SAP the documents. The documents are only ID of Alfresco documents. And when a user asks for a download, we ask again SAP if that user is allowed to do, and in the same context, in the same operation, we download from Alfresco the documents, serving the PDF to the final user. This is the visual representation. So the search again is performed against SAP, but the download is Alfresco is done through Alfresco API via Magnolia servlet. Okay, the final main point of this project is about authentication and authorization. Unfortunately, we are not in a standard Magnolia project where users are in JCR. So final users are in SAP. They are real SAP entities. There are no ACLs. So SAP by default doesn't allow, especially for this SAP module, doesn't allow to build a complex mechanism of authorization. The authorization is data-driven. So if you are a gas meter reader, you can do something. If you have a water meter reading, you can do other things, and so on. These kind of rules are not applicable on a hierarchical resource tree, as we are used to do with within Magnolia projects. So we cannot use the standard Magnolia authorization mechanism, and also the login is different. We decided to go with page renderer. Instead of producing a login handler and to plug our authentication and authorization in standard Magnolia way, since the model are not the same, we decided to introduce the model in a more easy way and more quick to debug and to test. So the page protection is for each page. For every request, we have in the page renderer a check. And also, some of the security utilities are exposed also to Freemarker statements. So the front-end developer can do something like, if user can read gas, prompt this button, otherwise no. And that's very agile. Probably in other projects, I wouldn't do that kind of things. But in this case, for the features of the project, this has been translated in an agile development of the front end. So you can do, as I said, things like that. So if normal flow, else exception, asking in that place to SAP the authorization. So this is the login, standard login. We see how to plug our SAP utility in Freemarker engine. So it's a very standard pattern, integration pattern. We introduce a new context attributes called myIL. IL is the name of the company. And this is an example of usage. So in this case, in the central line, you see ISO account is something related to SAP. myal.sessionutil.session ISO account. Ask for the user account properties and do something. In this case, it will prompt the client information, number of account, and so on. I'm quite at the end of the presentation, so some conclusion and future improvements. So the Magnolia OpenSuite approach easily allows to plug your integration activity in your project. There are so many injection points. There are login handlers, page renderers, context attributes, login processor, form builder processor, whatever, model classes. You can do almost anything with your integration processes. They are reliable. This kind of integration activities are patterns of integration. So you can find in the community and also in the official documentation a lot of patterns of integration. So if you want to integrate things in Magnolia, you have a lot of opportunity and they are stable. The form builder is very powerful. You can do almost anything. We translated the standard form builder in an enhanced form builder in few hours of activity. So we introduced form step, an additional form engine. It's very powerful. So when you have to deal with integration activities like that with processes, first option form builder. Then think twice to move away from form builder. Sometimes you should do, but take the form builder as your first choice. In this kind of project, the mock activity saved our life. Decoupling the front-end developer from the back-end developer allows us to proceed in parallel to reduce the time to release, the timing for the release of the project. And the IOC, Magnolia IOC, will really help us to do that. Not only allow your code to be clean enough, but also allows you to proceed internally in an agile way in your teamwork. And of course, when you have to deal with user data like that, and they are sensitive, security will be on top of feature. So everything you do, consider security as your primary goal. Of course, not every project is perfect, especially mine. We have we can do them better. For example, the form building activity, I think it's quite complex now. There are too many Magnolia green bars. When you deal with form builder, you see green bars everywhere. So maybe we can try to find a solution to reduce them or to simplify the form creation. At the moment, from an architectural point of view, SAP represents a single point of failure. At the moment, SAP is down. This should be a big problem also for the back office, but at the moment, it represents a single point of failure. A solution will be to export data to a look-aside database, maybe refresh every hour that database, so we can also scale our application horizontally. At the moment, we use massively the HTTP session. So there are no cache because everything is asked to SAP, and there is no easy way to communicate between one form step to another. So if we want to store something in a form step and to read the same in the next step, at the moment we are using the user session with some temporary data. And this is not clean. We would like to introduce in the next releases maybe a pattern to transfer data from one step to the other without interact with user data, so they are backend data. And at the moment, this is not a there are no single page app. So every process is a click and refresh activity. Some of the process could be speed up because there are maybe 3-4 steps. We can provide maybe a solution based on Angular or Backbone. for a better user experience. But let's see, at the moment this is working. We are launching the project in the next weeks. So this is not in plan for the moment. Okay, so as a conclusion, an unexpected result of this project is a new TINEX module. We tried to put the development from Java, Freemarker, Magnolia configuration in a generic way. And at the end, we realized that we can reuse this kind of solutions, this kind of patterns in other projects. So we took those developments and we collect them in a new module. We call them Nectar, Magnolia Nectar. And at the moment, we are using that module to bootstrap our project. So the first module we plug in our new development, new projects is the Nectar module. This contains these kind of things. For example, an SVN Sync App. As TINEX, we are still on SVN, and this app allows us to transfer the SVN trunk files directly in the production website. So, for example, if you want to update a CSS, you just you open Eclipse, do the change, commit the change, go in the website, click one button, and the CSS will be translated, transferred immediately to your final website. We have, I will show that later. We have Bootstrap task. For example, we have one task that cloned the standard Magnolia security layer. So Eric, Peter, user, in a website-specific, project-specific users. So we can, we save 1 hour every time with this automatic task. We have Java utils and Freemarker utils that came from our project history. So we have calendar, HTTP helpers, Magnolia API, and so on. We have a page builder API that allows us to programmatically create pages for complex site hierarchy. So like the user would interact with the user interface. Sometimes this is useful for migration process when you have to migrate websites. If you are able to read the data from the old webs, from the legacy website, you can use this kind of page builder API to create pages and content for you. And finally, a CAPTCHA solution. We have delivered in the past a TINEX CAPTCHA system that's a WAR file, and we have the utility and the paragraphs and components delivered in that module. That's a community edition module. So if you want, at the moment it's not on Forge, but in the next future, let's see. By the way, if you're interested in that module, don't hesitate to contact me. I would like only to show you this, to tell you the story about the SVN Sync app. So this app was a Magnolia 4 app based on standard Magnolia 4 framework for producing dashboards and utilities for the backend. We don't have time and money to migrate that app to a new content app, so we decided to go as the social media hub for the iframe solution. So consider this approach if you are migrating from Magnolia 4. So if you have developed something specific in your backend, probably translating to Content Hub now will be costly. So you have still this option. This will save the project cost. So for us was simply to clean the interface and to update some dependencies in the modules. By the way, about the functionality, you select a project from this dropdown. The SVN Sync app will load the repository, the SVN repository. You can select more than one file at a time. You can select all the files. There is an option to delete also MD5. So, you know, there are no issues when you redeploy your module later. With one button, you start the copy, and you have a visual representation of your progress. But let's see in action. Okay, so this is based on Magnolia 5.2. I don't remember. But no dependencies to Magnolia, so you can directly plug this to Magnolia 5.3. This is one of the future activities. As I said, this is based on Bootstrap. This is we introduced Bootstrap as a normal app foundation for our legacy app. So now from the drop-down, you select the project. In this case, we have the Ticino tourist website project. I hope the connection will retrieve the data in a fast way enough. We can wait 20 seconds. So at the moment, we are using SVN Kit Java library to download the information from our SVN repository. Come on. OK. On the right, we have a representation of our configuration. So we have the local path, we have the SVN URL, we have the status of the project. With this link, we are bringing to the JCR configuration for this project. Now, we can select all the files at once or manually select what we need to download. We have the options to download, to remove, to delete MD5, and click in those files. And the start update, we have the progress bar here, quite quick. So 3 files have been downloaded from the SVN to the live website. Quite easy, but this, if you are working with 10 teammates over 20 projects, maybe this saves hours a day of activities, of deployment activities. So quite quick and agile. Okay, that's it. Let me just going back to the slides. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to do now.